We had an expensive house, children, family life until one day my wife turned everything upside down and then it changed everything in my life, and the end of my story will surprise you the most. My name is David. I'm 41. And until just a few months ago, I thought I had the kind of life most men quietly envy. My wife, Rachel, 36, had the kind of presence that drew people in: smart, poised, beautiful in that effortless way, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and own it without saying a word. We've been married for 13 years. 3 kids. 2 dogs. 1 quiet, suburban dream. Our home in Meadowridge was something we built together, a 2-story colonial with the kind of porch you imagine sipping coffee on while your kids chase fireflies in the summer. We had our routines. Monday spaghetti nights. Friday movie marathons. Saturday morning pancakes where the kids made a mess and Rachel pretended to be annoyed while secretly loving it. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I supported Rachel through everything. Her career in marketing had taken off over the last few years, and I was proud. She traveled about once a month for work, 3 to 4 days at a time, always coming back with a new story, a gift for the kids, a tired smile. I missed her when she was gone, but I trusted her. Completely. But you know that thing? That gut feeling that scratches at the edge of your peace? I started to feel it in November. It was subtle. A longer silence on the phone than usual. A laugh that didn't sound like it was meant for me. The way she'd hold her phone a little tighter, face down on the table. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was being paranoid. Still, when she returned from her trip to Denver just before Christmas, she hugged the kids like a soldier home from war and barely touched me. She winced when I kissed her cheek. Blamed stress. Jet lag? Work politics. I let it go. The next trip I decided to surprise her. Flowers on the kitchen island. A note: "We missed you." She stared at it too long. Smiled too quickly. Said thank you in that voice you use when someone gives you a gift you don't know how to accept. That night, she left her phone in the bathroom while showering. I didn't snoop. I couldn't. I told myself I was better than that. That if you need to spy to feel secure, the relationship is already over. But even then, even as I stared at the glowing screen, I remember whispering to myself, please let me be wrong. She started declining video calls on trips. Wouldn't answer calls after 9 p.m. Said she was tired. In meetings. Networking. But when she got back, she'd always shower the moment she walked in. Not a word until she came out, towel wrapped tight, eyes guarded. I tried something different after her February trip. I met her at the airport with a handmade sign the kids painted. Welcome home, Mommy. She looked at it for a long time. Her eyes watered. Then she kissed each of the kids, tousled their hair, and gave me a long, searching look like she was trying to remember something. That night, she cried while we lay in bed. Told me she was overwhelmed. That I was too good. That she didn't deserve me. I held her. I believed her. But something had changed. The kind of change you don't see until it's already happened. Like a painting that's been replaced with a near-perfect copy. Almost the same. Almost. Still, I kept playing my part. I bought her favorite wine. Took over more of the parenting load. Told her I was proud of her. That I believed in her. And maybe that's what broke her. One Tuesday night, after the kids were asleep, she sat on the edge of the bed, back straight, hands folded. I remember every word she said. Why are you being so kind to me, David? I'm trying to push you away and all you do is love me more. I didn't say anything. I need to tell you something. And after I do, you might hate me. But I can't keep lying. Not to you. Not to the kids. Not to myself. And just like that, the life I thought we had, ended. She didn't say it all at once. It came out in fragments, in that trembling voice she only used when she was afraid of how I'd look at her afterward. Rachel had been seeing someone. A colleague. Someone younger. Someone who traveled with her. I remember the way my ears rang. Like the world had gone underwater. It started 4 months ago, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. One night. It wasn't supposed to be anything more. But then it was. I didn't ask questions. Not at first. I just sat there frozen. A part of me didn't want to know more. Another part couldn't stop thinking about every trip she took, every gift she brought home, every kiss that didn't land. That night, she reached for my hand. I pulled away. And yet, the next morning, I still made breakfast for the kids. Still packed lunches. Still kissed each of them on the forehead and waved goodbye as the school bus rolled down the street. I was a shell. But a functional one. I told myself I needed time. That maybe this was a mistake she regretted. That maybe we could fix it. That maybe love meant forgiving. But the doubts started stacking like bricks. One night, I noticed her unlocking her phone with her thumb under the table, shielding the screen. Another time she giggled at a text, then looked up and saw me watching her. The smile disappeared. "It's just work stuff," she said. My stomach turned. She had changed her phone's passcode. She started taking longer showers again. Would go on late-night walks alone. "Clearing my head," she'd say. But she never cleared it with me. And then came the day I followed her. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to know. She told me she had a team dinner at a hotel restaurant downtown. I watched from across the parking lot as she stepped out of the car, checked her lipstick in the mirror, then walked inside, not toward the restaurant, but toward the elevator. She texted me an hour later. "Dinner's going long. Don't wait up." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was too busy gripping the steering wheel, trying not to throw up. That night, I sat outside in the cold and thought about everything I missed. The hints. The signs. All the little cracks I plastered over because I wanted so badly to believe I was safe in her hands. The next morning, she kissed my cheek. Her lips were cold. "You okay?" she asked. "Just tired," I said. She nodded and walked away. And I knew. I knew it wasn't over. You think you're strong until the silence becomes a second skin. The day after I followed her, I told myself I'd start documenting things. Not out of revenge. Not yet. I just wanted to understand what was happening to my life. I started writing down dates. Her business trips. Times she was unreachable. I even noted the sudden change in perfume she wore, a more musky, assertive scent that wasn't her. Or maybe it was who she was now. I started noticing patterns. Always the same hotel chain. Always returning home in the same black leggings and oversized cardigan, like a costume meant to signal exhaustion. But the way her skin glowed beneath it, the slight smile on her lips when she thought no one was watching, it betrayed something else. Satisfaction. Fulfillment. Just not from me. I told myself to stay calm. For the kids. For sanity. But it was getting harder. One morning I caught her humming. She was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes, her hair still wet from a shower. The melody was unfamiliar, but the smile she wore as she sang it? That was the knife. A real smile. Soft. Unburdened. When she caught me looking, it vanished. "What?" she asked, tone clipped. "Nothing. Just, it's nice to see you smile." She looked at me like I'd accused her of something. I smile all the time. She didn't. Rachel was a ghost when she wasn't away. Present in body, absent in spirit. I'd wake up and find her already dressed, standing by the window, phone in hand, texting. She'd look up with that startled, guilty glance, then tell me she was checking work emails. Always work. Always urgent. Always somewhere else. I made a mistake one night. I asked her to stay. Cancel the trip. Let's take the weekend. Just you and me. She hesitated. For a second, her eyes softened. I saw the version of her I used to know. Then the wall came back. "I can't. It's an important pitch." "More important than our marriage?" She flinched. "Don't do that, David. Don't make me the villain." I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was surreal. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, counting all the nights I'd gone to bed alone. All the lies I'd convinced myself to believe. I wasn't just married to Rachel. I was married to the memory of who she used to be. The next morning I asked her point blank, "Are you still seeing him?" She paused. Too long. Then shook her head. "It's over." But she didn't meet my eyes. I didn't believe her. That day, I made the second biggest mistake of my life. I opened her laptop. I told myself it was justified. That I needed answers. What I found wasn't explosive. No pictures. No explicit emails. But I did find a folder of travel itineraries, and 2 of them didn't match what she told me. One had a second reservation in a name I didn't recognize. A man. Another was booked under her maiden name. When I confronted her that night, she didn't deny it. She just said, "I don't want to talk about this." "We have to." "No, David. You want to talk. I want to forget." And with that, she went to bed. The next morning, she left for another trip. No goodbye. No hug for the kids. Just the sound of the garage door rising and the faint trail of her new perfume hanging in the hallway. I stood in the doorway with a coffee going cold in my hand and 1,000 thoughts I couldn't hold anymore. This was no longer about love. It was survival. The morning after Rachel left again, I found myself standing in front of the mirror practicing fake smiles. It felt like some kind of twisted acting audition. Try smiling like someone whose wife didn't lie to him for half a year. I got up to version 7 before I gave up and poured a second cup of coffee. I hadn't shaved in days. My beard was coming in patchy, like even my hair wasn't sure it wanted to stick around for this. The kids were doing what kids do, absorbing everything and saying nothing. Sophie, our youngest, had started sleeping with all the lights on. Luke, the middle one, was suddenly fascinated by police procedural shows. And Alex, our teenager, didn't say anything at all. Just stared into his cereal like it held answers I couldn't give. They weren't dumb. Kids rarely are. They knew something was off. They just hadn't figured out which adult to trust with the truth. That night I tried to cook. I say tried because I forgot the garlic bread in the oven until the smoke alarm reminded me it was in there. The kids rushed into the kitchen, eyes wide, and I just stood there fanning a towel at the ceiling while muttering, "Crisis averted, Captain. Dinner's only slightly charred." Sophie giggled. It was the first sound of joy I'd heard in weeks. "Dad," Alex said, deadpan, "you're lucky Mom's not home." "Oh, buddy," I said, forcing a grin, "that's exactly why we're eating carbon for dinner." We all laughed. It was short, awkward, honest. It was the most we'd felt like a family in a month. Later that night, I sat on the back porch with a cheap beer and my neighbor, Carl. Carl was one of those retirees who knew more about everyone's lives than they did. "She's not worth your time, you know," he said casually, sipping from a can of Dr. Pepper like he was dispensing weather updates. "Thanks, Carl. That really clears things up." He glanced over. "I mean it. Women like that, they don't stop until they run out of places to hide. What about men like me?" He let the question hang. Then, with surprising gentleness, he said, You either break or you change." I sat with that for a while, staring into the dark. The next day, I bought a journal. Not a cheap spiral-bound notebook, but one of those leather-bound, "you're probably having a crisis" types. I started writing everything. What she said. What she didn't. The timestamps. The changes. The gaps. I found a strange kind of peace in it. Like documenting a crime scene. I wasn't screaming anymore, I was building a case. That weekend, the kids wanted to go to the zoo. I took them. We saw flamingos, giraffes, a sad-looking tiger that paced in slow, exhausted circles. Sophie said he looked lonely. "Yeah," I said. "He probably is." On the way back, we stopped for ice cream. Rachel texted while we were in line. Just a simple, "landed safe. Talk later." I stared at the screen. Then I put it back in my pocket. Let her talk later. Right now, I was standing between my kids and 2 scoops of Rocky Road. There was still damage. Still confusion. But there was also a flicker, tiny and defiant, of life moving forward. And somewhere in that space between the burnt garlic bread and the tiger's sad eyes, I realized, humor is just pain that doesn't know where else to go. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of quiet, domestic day that makes you think everything is fine. I was folding laundry while the kids watched a movie. Rachel was upstairs, supposedly napping after a long trip back from Phoenix. But when her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, something in me snapped. Not rage. Not jealousy. Just a deep, gut-level knowing. Like watching clouds roll in and realizing they weren't clouds at all, they were smoke. The screen lit up. "See you next trip. I miss your hands." I stared at it for a long time. The message was from a contact saved as Emma HR. Clever. Subtle. Only it wasn't from any Emma. And it sure as hell wasn't about human resources. I picked up the phone. Hands steady. Heart flatlining. She hadn't locked it. The messages ran back weeks. Months. Full of inside jokes, midnight wishes, hotel room snapshots. I scrolled like I was reading someone else's life. It was worse than I imagined. They talked about me. Not by name, but clearly. Her husband who doesn't get it. Her routine back home. Her quiet, gentle life that makes her feel like a ghost. There were pictures. Her in a robe. Him shirtless. Hotel rooms I recognized from expense reports. There was even a voice memo she laughed in it. That same laugh I used to live for. Now it felt like being stabbed with something familiar. I put the phone down. No throwing it. No yelling. I just stood there. Sophie came into the kitchen with a drawing. "It's you and Mommy," she said, grinning. I looked at it. Stick figures holding hands in front of a crooked house with a heart drawn overhead. "That's beautiful, honey," I said. My voice didn't shake. It didn't do anything. I went upstairs. The door to our bedroom was half open. Rachel was asleep, curled up like a child. Peaceful. Serene. I didn't wake her. I couldn't. Instead, I walked back down, sat on the couch, and stared at the TV without seeing it. Inside, something was breaking, and I knew it would never fix quite the same way again. That night, after the kids were in bed, she came downstairs, yawning, hair tousled. "Hey," she said softly. "We need to talk," I said. She froze. It was immediate. She knew. "You saw my phone." I saw everything. Silence. Then a slow exhale. "I didn't mean for it to happen." I almost laughed. "You mean you didn't mean for it to last?" She looked at the floor. It started as something stupid. I felt invisible. And then he noticed me. And and you what? Forgot who you were? Forgot who we were? She flinched. I didn't expect you to be kind about it. You're not yelling. You're not. I've done all the yelling in my head. For weeks. I'm too tired to perform, Rach. She sank onto the couch opposite me. We sat in silence. What happens now? She asked finally. And for the first time in months, I told the truth. I don't know. But whatever it is, it doesn't start with you. The next few days were the longest I'd ever lived. I went to work like a robot, smiling at patients, consulting with colleagues, nodding when people spoke. But inside, everything felt hollow. My body was doing one thing while my brain hovered somewhere else entirely. It's a strange sensation mourning something that hasn't ended yet. Like watching a building collapse in slow motion, knowing you're still trapped inside. Rachel tried. In her own way. She made coffee in the mornings. Picked up groceries. Asked how my day was going. But her voice always landed wrong. Her words sounded like someone speaking lines they hadn't rehearsed well enough. There was a desperation behind her politeness, like she was clinging to normalcy with bloodied fingertips. We didn't talk about it, not really. The only thing worse than her betrayal was how quickly she tried to move past it. You said you didn't know what comes next, she said one night, sitting on the edge of the bed. Have you figured it out yet? I didn't answer right away. I was staring at a photo on my nightstand, the 5 of us at the lake last summer. Sunburned shoulders. Watermelon smiles. Rachel's arms around my waist like she wanted to be there. I haven't figured anything out, I finally said. But I do know this, whatever I decide, it'll be for me and the kids. Not for you. She didn't argue. Just nodded slowly, eyes rimmed with unshed tears. Maybe they were real. Maybe they weren't. I'd stopped trying to measure the truth in her face. A few nights later, I heard her crying in the shower. I almost went in. Almost. But I stayed in bed instead, staring at the ceiling, letting the sound pass through me. She started texting him again. I knew because I checked. Not her phone this time, her tablet. She had forgotten to log out. The messages were shorter now, less romantic, more logistical. But they were there. Not yet, she wrote. He's still numb. I don't know what he's going to do. Still numb. She was right. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was grieving. Grieving the woman I married. Grieving the life we built. Grieving the version of myself who believed in things like vows and forever. But that grief had edges. And those edges were starting to sharpen. One afternoon, I picked up the kids from school. Sophie climbed into the back seat and said Mommy was sad again today. Yeah? She cried when she thought we weren't looking. Luke chimed in. She hugged me really tight before I left. Like extra tight. I gripped the steering wheel. She was trying to apologize through them now. Trying to weave herself back into the narrative by being a mother. But the woman who held our kids close wasn't the one I trusted anymore. That night, after the kids were asleep, I left our bedroom and slept in the guest room. No explanation. Just a quiet relocation of my things. She stood in the hallway watching. You're done with me, aren't you? She asked. I looked at her. I mean really looked at her. Tired eyes? Chapped lips? Her usual poise eroded by the weight of everything she'd broken. I don't know if I'm done, I said. But I'm definitely somewhere new. And you're not invited there yet. She opened her mouth to respond, but I shut the door gently. Behind it, I stood still, listening to the sound of her breath. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like the one who needed to apologize. The strange thing about betrayal is that it doesn't end with the confession. It echoes, bounces off your memories and reframes them like a cruel editor splicing truth into old footage. I couldn't stop seeing it, Rachel laughing in our wedding video, running barefoot through the backyard with Luke, singing to Sophie at bedtime. All those moments once sacred, now tainted. The ghosts of who we were lingered everywhere. And in every one of them I asked myself the same questions. Was she already drifting? Was this the beginning of the end and I didn't see it? Regret crept in, slow and steady. Not just for what she did, but for what I didn't do. I should have asked more questions. Fought harder. Seen her sooner. Maybe if I hadn't worked those extra shifts. Maybe if I had told her she was beautiful when she stopped believing it herself. It's a dangerous thing, shouldering the blame that isn't yours. But it's easier than accepting that the person you loved simply chose someone else. Rachel tiptoed around me now. Polite. Quiet. Eager to prove she could still be the woman I once trusted. But trust doesn't regenerate like skin. It doesn't scab. It scars. And I was still bleeding. One afternoon she asked if we could talk. No accusations. No defenses, she promised. Just honesty. I agreed. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place we'd signed the mortgage papers, picked school lunches, helped the kids with math. Now it was a battleground in disguise. I miss you, she said. Not just what we were. You. The way you look at the world. The way you used to look at me. I stayed quiet. I made the biggest mistake of my life, she continued. And I know you probably can't ever forgive me, but I need you to know it wasn't about him. It was about me. How small I felt. How lost. So you found yourself in someone else's bed? I asked, my tone flat. She swallowed hard. I didn't think you'd ever see me again. Not really. You're right, I said. Because you're not the same person I married. We sat there in the silence that followed, both of us held hostage by the weight of what we'd lost. Not just each other, but who we were together. Later, I found a note in my jacket pocket. Scribbled in her handwriting, I still believe in us. Even if you don't. I read it once. Then tucked it in the back of my drawer. Not out of hope. Not out of spite. Just not ready to throw it away yet. Because that's the cruel mercy of regret, it keeps you tethered even when the rope's been cut. It was a Friday night and something in the air felt still. Too still. The kind of stillness you get before a storm breaks. I'd been quiet for days, moving through the house like a tenant, not a husband. Rachel had grown more restless. She hovered near the kitchen when I made coffee. Lingered outside the bathroom door when I shaved. She wanted proximity. What she didn't realize was how far she already was. That night, after the kids had gone to sleep, she cornered me in the living room. No warning. Just her and that look, the one she used to give me before important conversations. Before babies. Before promotions. Before we were us. David, she said, voice thin. I need to know what you're going to do. I can't keep walking around like this. I feel like I'm being sentenced without knowing the verdict. I set down my glass and stood. I didn't want to talk to her while sitting. I wanted her to feel how firm my feet were planted. The verdict. I asked. Is that what this is? A trial? No. I need to know if there's a chance. A chance for what? For things to go back to normal? For us to pretend this didn't happen. She flinched. I'm not pretending. I know what I did. I hate myself every day for it. I stepped closer. Do you? Or do you just hate that you got caught? Tears welled in her eyes. That's not fair. Neither was lying to me. Neither was using the kids as cover. Neither was making love to me with his cologne still on your skin. She backed up, stunned. Her hands went to her chest like she needed to protect something still beating inside. Stop it, she whispered. Please. I've said I'm sorry. I've told you everything. No, I said, cold. You told me the part you thought I could survive. You never told me why. You never told me who you became when I wasn't around. She looked at me like a drowning woman. I became someone who didn't know how to ask for help. I became someone who hated herself. I became lost. You could have asked me. I was right there. Every day. Building a life for you. Giving you space. Giving you grace. She broke then. Really broke. Fell to the couch in tears, her hands shaking. I want to fix it, she sobbed. Tell me how. Please, David. Tell me how. And I stood there unmoved. Because that's the final cruelty of betrayal. It makes you the judge of someone you once would have walked through fire for. I don't have answers for you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She looked up, eyes raw. So this is it? You're done. There's a silence that comes after confrontation, a heavy, unmoving thing that settles into the walls and the space between people. It followed me home that night like a shadow. I didn't go far. Just sat in my car around the corner, staring at the dashboard until the condensation blurred everything. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even think. I just existed. At some point, I must have dozed off. When I woke, it was past midnight. The streets were empty. The house, when I returned, was dark. Rachel hadn't texted. She hadn't called. For the first time since it all began, she left me alone. I crawled into the guest bed and stared at the ceiling, letting the ache in my chest expand until it filled the room. The next morning, the house was still quiet. Rachel had left early. A note on the counter read, took the kids to the park. Didn't want to wake you. We'll be back after lunch. I stood there staring at her handwriting like it was a language I no longer understood. I spent the day pacing. I tried reading. Couldn't focus. Tried doing dishes. Couldn't stand the sound of water. I walked through every room of the house like a ghost visiting his own life. Every photo frame was a reminder. Every scuff mark, every stain on the carpet, evidence of a life built brick by brick and then shattered in one blow. Around noon, I found myself in the garage, digging through an old plastic bin. Inside were wedding keepsakes. Cards. Dried flowers. A napkin from the restaurant where I proposed. It felt like digging through an archaeological site. Proof that we'd once been something. Someone. But all I felt was numb. When Rachel came home, I was sitting in the living room. She paused in the doorway. The kids ran past her, laughing, trailing leaves behind them. She sat down on the opposite end of the couch. You look tired, she said. I am. You didn't sleep well? I haven't slept well in months. She bit her lip. I know. We sat in that same awful silence for minutes that felt like hours. Do you want me to leave? She asked. I looked at her. Do you want to? She swallowed. No. But I will if you think it's what you need. What I need, I said slowly, is for this to not have happened. But here we are. She nodded. Yeah. Here we are. And just like that, I felt it, that moment of complete bottoming out. No more denial. No more bargaining. Just a raw, painful truth sitting in my lap, daring me to move. I stood up and walked to the door. Where are you going? She asked, alarmed. To get some air, I said. Don't worry. I'm not running away. I closed the door behind me and stepped into the gray afternoon. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I let myself feel the full weight of it. Not just what she did, but what I'd lost. My marriage. My faith. The version of myself that believed some things were unbreakable. I stood there until it started to rain. And I didn't move. The rain finally stopped around midnight. I stood there until the chill worked its way through my bones, then went back inside, peeled off my soaked shirt and left it on the laundry room floor. Something about it felt symbolic. Like shedding a skin that no longer fit. The next morning I made pancakes. Not from a mix. From scratch. The kids were wide-eyed at the sight of me in the kitchen, apron on, flour in my beard. Is it a holiday? Luke asked, genuinely confused. Nope, I said. Just figured we deserved a warm start. Rachel stood in the hallway watching. I saw her hand tighten around her coffee mug. Like she was bracing for something that never came. I smiled. Not for her. For me. That morning I sat at the table with my children and really looked at them. Listened to their chatter. Took in the shapes of their faces, the curve of their laughter. I saw everything I still had. Everything that hadn't broken. And something shifted. Later that day I called my brother. We hadn't spoken in a while. Too much life. Too many excuses. You don't sound like hell, he said. I expected hell. I lived through it already, I replied. Now I'm just figuring out what's left. We talked for nearly 2 hours. About nothing. About everything. It was the first time in weeks I felt like a man again and not just a wound in a hoodie. That night, Rachel approached me again. Cautious. Careful. I've been thinking, she said. I didn't interrupt. If we're going to end this, if that's what you decide, I'll cooperate. You've been good to me. Too good. I won't fight you. I looked at her. I haven't decided anything. I know. I want to say thank you. For not turning cold. For not making the kids pick sides. For still being kind. I'm not kind, I said, honest. I'm surviving. There's a difference. She nodded. But I appreciate the effort, I added, softer. That night, I sat alone in the living room with a legal pad and a pen. I wrote 2 lists. One was titled, Why I Should Let Go. The other, Why I Should Try. For the first time, the second list wasn't empty. And that felt like something. I didn't wake up one morning with clarity. There was no big revelation. It was more like erosion. The grief began to wear down, not because it got lighter, but because I'd grown strong enough to carry it. Rachel noticed. She didn't hover anymore. Instead, she gave space the way I used to. She didn't push, didn't plead. She just showed up in the small, quiet ways that once defined our early years together. Packing the kids' lunches before I remembered. Taking out the trash without a word. Replacing the cracked frame in the hallway with a new photo of all 5 of us at the beach. One night I found her in the living room, folding laundry, humming to herself. It wasn't the same hum I'd heard months ago, the careless, floating melody that once felt like a dagger. This one was grounded. Soft. Human. We started talking again. Not about the past. About the kids. Work. Groceries. Then, slowly, about pain. Regret. Wounds. No one apologized anymore, we'd done that. Now it was more about acknowledgement. Validation. I told her how it felt to watch her become someone I didn't recognize. She didn't cry this time. She just listened. I hurt you in a way I can never undo, she said one night. You did, I answered. But you also stayed. That was something. We decided to try therapy. Not for answers, just for a shared language. Somewhere neutral to put the words that still stung. We sat side by side on the couch like strangers rehearsing a scene they used to know by heart. But the therapist was good. He didn't tell us what to do. He helped us hear each other again. I learned things I didn't expect. About Rachel's childhood, her fears, her quiet unraveling. And she learned about mine, how often I held things in, believing strength meant silence. We were both cracked long before we ever broke each other. We began sharing walks in the evening. Short ones. At first, we barely spoke. But over time, the silence changed. It softened. Felt less like distance and more like peace. One day I asked her if she deleted his number. She nodded. I did. The day after I told you. And I haven't looked back. I believed her. I didn't know what that meant yet. Not fully. But I believed her. And when she reached out to take my hand on that walk, I didn't pull away. Not because I'd forgotten. Because I'd remembered how to feel. Spring came early to Meadowridge that year. The kind of season that makes you believe in second chances. The snow melted fast, uncovering the yard like a secret that had been buried too long. I found the kid's old soccer ball half deflated behind the shed and brought it inside to patch up. Sophie squealed when she saw it. Daddy. My ball. I thought it was gone forever. I knelt beside her, fingers tracing the faded seams. Some things just need a little air. It wasn't profound at the time. But now I think about that moment a lot. Rachel and I didn't magically heal. There were still bruises beneath the surface, invisible but tender. But we were honest about them. Some days were warm and open. Others tight and stiff, like wearing shoes that used to fit. One Saturday we took the kids to the lake, the same one from our old photo. We brought sandwiches, folding chairs, and just sat. The kids chased geese and threw rocks into the water. Rachel took a picture of me helping Alex bait a hook. I saw her look at the photo for a long time, then quietly set her phone aside without sharing it. Not everything needed to be posted. Some moments were just meant to be kept. We were becoming something new. Not what we used to be. Something smaller maybe, but truer. At therapy, we started using the word we again. We struggled. We got through it. We're learning. I started laughing again. Real, from the gut laughter. It caught me off guard the first time, how light it felt. Rachel looked up from her book, startled, and smiled so softly I almost missed it. One night, after dinner, she reached across the table and said, "Do you still love me?" I thought about it. Not out of doubt, but out of respect for the question. Yes, I said. But it's a different love now. It's not blind. It's awake. She nodded, eyes glossy. That's the kind I want. We held hands as the kids cleared the table. It wasn't a grand gesture. Just skin on skin. Presence. I don't know where we'll be a year from now. But I know this, we are here. And after everything, that's enough. Forgiveness isn't a finish line. It's a garden. You tend to it. You water it. Some days, nothing blooms. But some days, it surprises you. And in those small surprises, love lives again. The end.